Commodore, my 64, my Commodore 64.
Once, in a tavern on the waterfront, an old salt whispered to you the tale of the 7 bishops, Christian men who had been blown far off course into an unknown realm and who established 7 kingdoms whose splendor ranked with the reign of Solomon. Since that time, you have dreamed of little else. Now, at long last, you have been granted the resources necessary to mount an expedition. To be sure, the court's ministers are only interested in surpassing Portugal's maritime strength and controlling commerce to and from the Orient. They do not know of your real motives. But no matter, the expedition is yours to command, and you feel certain that adventure beyond all imagining and riches beyond all dreams of avarice are in your grasp. These are the opening words of the manual for 7 Cities of Gold, a Commodore 64 masterpiece and one of the very first true open-world games ever created. Long before sandbox games were cool, 7 Cities let you roam freely, explore uncharted lands, and get lost way before GPS made that a lot harder to do. So gather your crew, your courage, and perhaps a few cans of mosquito repellent, because we're about to set sail to the new world in searches of riches and glory. The myth of the 7 Cities of Gold dates back to the 8th century after the Muslim conquest of Hispania. According to the legend, 7 Christian bishops fled west across the Atlantic, taking treasure and sacred relics with them, and founded 7 fabulously wealthy cities somewhere across the sea. Over the centuries, the story evolved and merged with others, but it remained tantalizingly real to generations of explorers. During the 15 and 1600s, Spanish conquistadors were particularly obsessed. They called them the 7 Cities of Cibola and believed these golden metropolises lay hidden somewhere in the New World. We now know it was all myth, of course. These golden cities turned out to be humble pueblos made of clay, not treasure. Let's just say Zillow listings were a little misleading back then. Still, this romanticized take on New World exploration made the perfect backdrop for a computer game, and game designer Danielle Bunten Berry, then known as Dan Bunten, was all in. Danielle loved board games, and the way they brought people together. That passion for social play carried into her next discovery, computing. While studying industrial engineering at the University of Arkansas, she was hooked the first time she got the big IBM to print A plus B equals C, and before long she was creating text-based games for fun. In 1978, she released her first commercial title, a multiplayer business simulation called Wheeler Dealers for the Apple II. It even came with a custom controller she designed herself. Only about 50 copies were sold, but the game, along with her next project for SSI, Cartels and Cutthroats, caught the attention of Trip Hawkins, the founder of Electronic Arts. Hawkins wanted to license Cartel and Cutthroats, but Berry convinced him that an original title would be better, and the result was the legendary Mule, a multiplayer masterpiece. By this time, Berry had founded her own studio, Ozark Softscape, with her brother and 2 friends, running the entire operation out of her basement. Mule only sold about 30,000 copies, but it became an instant classic, solidifying Ozark's reputation as one of the most creative teams in the industry. For their next project, Berry wanted to create a computer version of Avalon Hill Civilization board game, but the rest of the team wasn't on board. Instead, they pivoted towards something inspired by the SPI board game Conquistador, focused on exploring and discovering new worlds, and that's how the seed for 7 Cities of Gold was planted. After a few months of brainstorming and roughly 6 months of development, 7 Cities of Gold was released in 1984. It sold over 100,000 copies in its first year and was named Strategy Game of the Year by Computer Gaming World readers, an incredible achievement for such a small studio. Ozark went on to develop several more innovative titles, most centered around creating shared multiplayer experiences. Games like Robot Rascals, Modem Wars, and Global Conquest push new ideas in cooperative and competitive play, though none match the commercial success of 7 Cities of Gold. A dispute over a proposed Mule sequel ultimately became the final nail in Ozark's coffin, and the studio dissolved in 1993. Danielle went on to design one last game, War Sport, published by Empath Interactive, before her passing in 1998 from lung cancer. The game begins in March 1492 in Spain. The Crown has furnished you with a fleet of 4 ships, 100 men, and some trade goods. Your task is to venture west to claim land, riches, and glory for your kingdom. Starting out usually means a quick stop at the outfitters to stock up on food, trade goods, or extra men. But with only 222 gold to spend, your means are limited. Other buildings in town, the castle, pub, and your home serve important roles but aren't needed at the outset. The game nudges you toward your ship, and once you disembark, the rest of the adventure is entirely open. There's no scoring, no quests, and no ending. It's a game focused purely on the joy of exploration. As soon as you hit the sea, the first thing you'll probably notice is the small playing screen. This wasn't just a design choice, it reflected the 64's hardware limits. With enormous detailed maps to load, the game had to balance visibility, performance, and stats display. Bunten's team developed a streaming system to fetch map data without long pauses, but the visual field still needed to stay modest. Even so, the map is enormous. Nearly 205,000 tiles across 2,800 screens, rendered geographically accurately. Once you start playing, however, the small window quickly fades from notice. Here we are in the middle of the Atlantic, with the sense of rum, scurvy, and questionable hygiene wafting in the salt air, heading towards unknown lands. The ocean can be perilous. Sailors can die from illness, storms can damage your fleet and push you off course, and sometimes your entire fleet can vanish. Then comes the payoff. The water depth changes, and land ho! Finding a suitable landing spot is the first order of business. I usually explore a bit, looking for a river system or a beach near a village, and avoid the shoals. Running into one is a surefire way to lose a ship. Once a spot has been found, it's time to disembark. A trumpet flourish announces our discovery, and the real adventure begins. Once on land, the true scale and sophistication of 7 Cities of Gold becomes apparent. You are a small piece in a huge, dangerous land. Swamps, mountains, and forests slow your travel, and your men are always susceptible to starvation and other dangers. The only thing missing is the constant buzz of mosquito swarms. An automatically updated map is helpful for keeping tabs on where you are, but getting lost is always a real possibility. Fortunately, we're not the first ones here. People have lived on these lands for thousands of years and know its dangers and its secrets intimately. Meeting them means finding settlements. On the lowest level, towns automatically appear on the map. At higher levels, they must be discovered. Either way, entering towns is a key focus of gameplay. Upon entering a settlement for the first time, you'll notice and hear the villagers reacting to these strange visitors, sometimes passive and curious, other times aggressive. They will gather around, sometimes making it difficult to move without accidentally killing one with a disturbingly satisfying pop. Accidentally doing this once or twice is fine, but too much triggers a village attack. Leaving gifts or awing the natives will make it a bit easier to move around, but it can still be quite tricky to avoid everybody. At the center of town is the chief, and if you want to trade, that's where you have to go. Trade starts easily, but over time he may demand gifts before granting access to the store. Once trade begins, you can swap your goods for gold or food. On the first trade, you'll notice you can suddenly carry a lot more. This is because the tribe also provides native handlers. Small villages supply 2 handlers per man, while larger cities provide up to 5. The natives remain with you while on your expedition, but they don't board your ships. You can also choose conquest over trade. Successful attacks reward gold and food, but cost lives, leave you vulnerable to ambushes, and make future trade more difficult. Danielle Bunten Berry recommended a peaceful approach, and even the manual points out that conquest is quick, but it consumes lives and leaves bitter memories. For what it's worth, I agree. Peaceful play keeps both your men and conscience intact. After a successful trade, a village may even convert into a mission, providing free food and storage for men, goods, and gold. Forts can also be established anywhere, but they require resupply or men will die. Missions, in contrast, are usually self-sustaining. Exploration then continues beyond settlements, aided by your native bearers. Pausing lets them point out nearby treasures like gold mines or lost cities, which is always a thrill. Free stuff! Eventually, you'll find yourself running low on goods or carrying too much gold. It's time to return home. When back in town, stop by the palace to receive a rating and perhaps a promotion if you're doing well. You can then stop by the pub to save your game, and your home provides a travel summary and a pretty cool looking map. Then it's time to restock at the outfitters and return to the new world. It's an immensely satisfying gameplay loop, and there is always more to discover. Aztec and Incan cities await laden with gold. Iconic landmarks like the Great Lakes, Mississippi, and Fountain of Youth waiting to be found. Seasons change the coloring of the lands and the bounty available for trade. Villages may communicate with nearby tribes, making new encounters less surprising. It's a living world, and this realism was unheard of in early games, making 7 Cities of Gold all the more impressive. Once 1540 hits, you no longer receive promotions upon returning to port, though play can continue towards 100% completion. Alternatively, the built-in map maker lets you generate a whole new, procedurally generated world. It's not truly random. Tectonics models place mountain ranges accurately, and cultural dissemination models place villages realistically, adding massive replay value. Together, the visuals and audio fit 7 Cities of Gold perfectly. They enhance exploration and discovery, making each voyage feel immersive and exciting. Map tiles are brightly colored, attractive, and easy to understand, and the coastline is one of the best you'll ever see in a 64 game. Movement is smooth, only occasionally slowed by a bit of lag as the map loads into memory. But it's Ozark's attention to detail that makes the game stand out. The gilded frame surrounding your play area, the different houses and villages, the changing seasons, and the cool zoom-in effect when you reach your ship or a village all contribute to its polished look. And as good as the visuals are, I think the sound design is even better. The swooshing of the waves as you're crossing the water, the thunderous booms of storms, and the sound of sand hitting keel as you navigate through shallow waters are all done exceptionally well and add a remarkable sense of atmosphere. You can almost smell the salt and sweat. The pounding drum beats in villages ramp up tension, and the little trumpet flourishes when making discoveries are always a delightful burst of serotonin. Also, the opening screen deserves a mention. The elegantly rendered title paired with the gorgeous soundtrack makes for one of the best openings in 64 history, perfectly setting the mood for an epic game of exploration. The Commodore 64 Appreciation Society absolutely adores 7 Cities of Gold, and we're definitely not alone. In the September 1984 issue of Compute, James Trunzo praised it as a riveting new adventure game, highlighting its blend of strategy and education. A few months later, Greg Kaiser from Compute's Gazette called it exceptional, emphasizing how immersive it was. Home Computing Weekly gave it a perfect 5 out of 5, calling it the best we've seen from the adventure genre. The game went on to sell around 150,000 copies, Ozark Softscape's biggest hit by far. Its reputation endured long after its release. In 1996, Computer Gaming World ranked 7 Cities of Gold the 61st best game of all time. Even today, it still holds up. It maintains an 844 rating at Lemon 64, placing it just outside their all-time top 100. The game even got a second life in 1993 when it was remade for MS-DOS. More than a simple reskin, this version added new features and end goals, earning strong reviews and winning the 1993 Origins Award for Best Military or Strategy Computer Game. When looking at the legacy of 7 Cities of Gold, its contributions are clear. It was one of the very first open-world games, long before that term even existed, inspiring generations of developers. You can see its DNA in games like Civilization, Sid Meier's Pirates, and even No Man's Sky. It also helped pioneer the idea of blending education and entertainment. At a time when most edutainment titles were painfully literal, Seven Cities of Gold managed to be both enlightening and genuinely fun, a rare success story in the early 80s. But its legacy isn't entirely positive. The game's depiction of native populations reflects the colonial perspective of its era. While players could choose peaceful approaches, the framing still centers on European conquest and expansion, with the ultimate goal being to claim land and resources for Spain. Modern critics rightly note that Seven Cities of Gold didn't glorify violence, but it also didn't question it. It's a reminder that even groundbreaking works can carry the limitations of their time. On a personal note, Seven Cities of Gold holds a special place in my gaming memories. I'd played plenty of games as a kid, and loved them, but this was the first one that truly awed me. Within minutes, I realized how much deeper and more powerful computer games could be compared to the consoles and arcade machines at the time. This wasn't just a game, it was an interactive history book that I could explore at my own pace. In all my years of gaming since, I don't think I've ever felt the same raw sense of adventure and discovery. And as for its creator, Danielle Bunten Berry, her influence stretches far beyond a single title. She designed games that were decades ahead of their time and pioneered the concept of social play. Berry's impact was eventually recognized by the industry she helped shape. She received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Computer Game Developers Association in 1998. 2 years later, Will Wright dedicated The Sims to her memory, and in 2007, she was posthumously inducted into the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame by none other than Sid Meier, one of the many developers she directly inspired. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. If you have any memories of Seven Cities of Gold, I'd love to hear them. Drop them in the comments. Hope to see you again.